Something that you've done throughout the past couple years, in addition to your research, is you've been documenting the history of ophthalmology in Cincinnati. You gave a grand rounds talk, was it earlier this year, end of last year? That was very eye-opening. A lot of stuff that I didn't know about. And then just this year, I think, right? You published at least the first edition of this book.
Right.
That clearly is a labor of love.
Right. Back in 1994, Dr. Asbury had prepared the first history of the department. It really wasn't a history of the department. It was history of ophthalmology, he said, in Cincinnati. And it was just kind of like little anecdotes about certain people who were prominent ophthalmologists during the 1800s, and then a very short bit about some of the people who had been the department chairman in the subsequent years. It wasn't in any great depth. When I got here in 1999, I kind of looked at that and I said, we ought to have a little more than that. And I actually worked with him in 2002 to update that and put a few more things in it. And we really used that to give that to the incoming residents so that they knew a little bit about the program. But it still didn't have very much information about the program itself. And in talking with even Dr. Asbury about it, I found that there were a lot of holes in what was known about the program. For example, when did the residency start? Who started it? A lot of things like that. And so I just decided that that would be an interesting thing to try to find that out. So starting even about 5 or 6 years ago, I started to in my free time, collect some information in books. I read through a variety of books about the University of Cincinnati and how it was developed, and about Daniel Drake and where he came from, and a variety of different people, and then subsequently followed that up with all sorts of things about the former chairman, and from that, and looking at their bibliographies, tracking other things down, and then finding out what was happening in Cincinnati at the same time as that. And finally, after I stopped seeing patients, I was able to then put all those things together. So between January and March of this year, I was able to put all of it together, get all the pictures I had collected together, and put them all together in what I called a comprehensive history of the Department of Ophthalmology, its residency program, and its subspecialty fellowships between 1896 and 2019. Actually, I talked about a lot of things that happened even in the late 1700s and early 1800s as precedents to this, but the Department of Ophthalmology was only formed, the College of Medicine was only formed as a university-based college of medicine in 1896. So that's why that date is important going forward. And so I was able to do that. I was able to find that the residency program started in the mid-1920s as an eye, ear, nose, and throat residency. And I found that interesting too. It was run by a guy who was an otolaryngologist. It's very difficult even to track down, even with what I was able to find, what the ophthalmology practitioners on the staff had to do as part of that residency program, or whether they had any supervisory role at all. It doesn't appear to be. It seems like early on, a resident was a resident if he said he wanted to have more experience with that particular specialty. And so when he came to the hospital, it was up to him. And it was always him for many, many years, to learn by trial and error, read about something and try it, and with almost no supervision at all. And it didn't seem like even that changed very much until Dr. Asbury came on as the residency program director in 1956 and really started to insist that we had some supervision, even though I will tell you, even then, as a senior resident here, you would be able to schedule cases on your own if you derived them from your clinic. And unless it was very complicated and you didn't feel that you were competent to do that, you didn't have to have anybody. So as a resident even, it was very hard to get anybody. Dr. Raymond was the only person on the staff at the start here. And Dr. Raymond was a very slow surgeon. He could do one surgical case in the morning and one surgical case in the afternoon, and that was it. And so if you had a retinal detachment come into the clinic and he had some cases scheduled for the next 2 weeks, it would be a long time. So I would schedule them. I think I did about 7 retinal detachment procedures on my own without any staff supervision at all. And I got about 75% of them attached. Didn't get them all.
That's pretty
and
remarkable.
I look back at the fundus drawings. The ones I didn't get attached had giant tears, PVR, things like that. Well, it's no surprise that I couldn't get them attached without vitrectomy methods.